I think going by the science so far, in about 1.5 to 2 years, we can expect to touch 2 lakh crores in a month. I think the GST collection doing well is part of the overall phenomenon of good policy that has been implemented on the taxation side. You would recall a few days back, I had written a piece in the Times of India showing that since the global financial crisis, India's tax to GDP ratio had been declining, and I showed this not just I showed using the actual rupee tax numbers, the tax to GDP ratio, the direct tax to GDP, and the indirect tax to GDP, ratio, so that we are not focusing on a particular metric, but looking at the evidence in a collective manner, so that there is no possibility of any cherry picking. And that clearly demonstrated that because of the economic troubles that India went through after the global financial crisis, when we became part of the Fragile Five, we had the dual balance sheet problems because of the crony lending, and the policy paralysis that prevailed. The tax to GDP ratios really declined. And around 2015-16, when this government implemented a lot of the measures, both on the direct tax and the indirect tax side, that declining trend actually turned, and now it is on an upward trend because of good policy. Because viewers can appreciate that if, for instance, that such policies had not been implemented, it is fair to say that that negative trend would have possibly continued. And so the impact of good policies can be seen by using that counterfactual trend to estimate what is the impact of these policies. So overall, I think the good performance on the GST side is evidence of good policy on taxation. But as you would recall, in that piece, I said there's more work to be done. There are a couple of more observations I want to make on this, because when GST was implemented, there was a lot of commentary about some of the glitches that were there, in GST. I think the important learning from here is that a good policy takes some time to get complete, to get perfected. Much like a sculptor does not create a sculpture immediately. He chisels into perfection, doesn't land into perfection. In a similar way, good policy also, good policy makers chisel into perfection, and some amount of patience is absolutely essential for us to see the outcomes of good policy. I think GST is a very important learning in that count. If we go back in history, even the 1991 liberalization that was done by the then Prime Minister PVR Narasimha Rao, of course, was fantastic change. In fact, a seminal shift for the Indian economy. But growth did not manifest immediately. It actually took some time. In fact, several years for the impact of that to manifest. Similarly, the tremendous reforms that were done by the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, the benefit of that was seen after 2004 in the first 5 years, at a time when the global economy was doing very well. So I think when you look at the GST, when you look at liberalization in 1991, the reform measures implemented by the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, I think history shows that good policy takes some time to implement, and I took for it to show evidence, and that is being seen in the many measures that have been implemented by the current government, which GST is an important part of that.